they use the cover story. Oh, they are U.S. citizens. No, they're not. They're not U.S. If they cross the border illegally without being vetted, they're here illegally. They broke a federal law. This is what she put out. I'm introducing my Dignity for Detained Immigrants Act to fix our broken immigration detention system that is full of rights violations and for profit prisons. Trump's treatment of immigrants has been unacceptable. We're fighting back. So let me just reword this. I'm introducing my legislation that is, I'm going to protect the invaders, and who the hell cares about U.S. Citizens Act? That's really what she's saying right there. Let's correct her, because we know every piece of legislation that these people put out, like the Affordable Care Act, like the Patriot Act, they're always the opposite. So let's just call it what it really is. And we could see this is exactly what they're doing. And once again, do you really think this is going to pass? Do you really think they have the ability to pass any of this? Absolutely not. And think about it. Every day that passes, what is the FBI, DOJ doing? They're basically shutting down the pedo networks. BX put this out and says, 5 members of a 764 network group known as Greggy's Cult have been arrested and face charges of operating a child exploitation enterprise. This is one of the biggest busts yet. So basically, they busted 5 leaders, and there were a lot of children involved in all of this. So think about what is happening right now, and think about what is coming. Because again, timing is very, very important. And I do believe that Kash right now, he's building the respect for the FBI. He's showing people that, no, we're here to stop the criminals. Plus, he's saving the children before the main information comes out about all the pedophilia networks, especially with Epstein. Because, yes, Epstein is one of them, but I do believe this is just one pedophilia network. Might be a very large one, but there are many, many others. And you can see the deep state players, they're going to be panicking like we've never seen before, because everything's starting to fall apart around them. And you could see that once again, when Trump came into office, what did the deep state players do? They tried to hide everything this time around. All the employees working at USAID, you know what they did? They encrypted their files. They didn't want anyone looking at them. Why would that be? What was in those files? The Skiff explains. USAID workers encrypted files in color revolutions. Before Trump took office, USAID officials secretly migrated internal government communications off of official systems onto encrypted signal chats. They refused to hand over all internal communications and USAID files to the Trump administration. They were taken to court and ordered by a judge to hand over the files, and they still refused. They encrypted all the USAID files and internal communications because it would expose the paper trail, the players, and everything happening today. Every single NGO, shell company, and person, including government workers involved in the active color revolution that's taking place right now on U.S. soil, and the Trump administration and U.S. taxpayers are paying for it all. To this day, the files and internal communications are still encrypted. Tons of other evidence was shredded and destroyed because, once again, they're pushing their agenda, and these agencies like USAID, and there's many different agencies with all these people in there, they were running the criminal syndicate. The criminal syndicate, they're pushing for a color revolution to take back control. And this is what they've been pushing ever since Trump won the election. And you can see it's building and building and building because, once again, as the evidence comes out against them, because they know it's coming, they know eventually they're going to be arrested. They know they're going to be put on trial. So, as criminals often do, they fight back to the very, very end, and they don't care if it's illegal. They don't care if it looks like a coup, because they know what happens in the end. If they win the coup, they're off the hook. If they lose the coup, at least they fought. It's almost like when you're chasing down a criminal in a car chase, and the criminal hits into something and the car won't run. The criminal gets out, takes out his gun, and starts shooting at the police. Why didn't the criminal just, surrender? Because the criminal's fighting for their lives. The criminal knows if they're caught, they're going to jail. So I might as well fight to the very, very end, because this at least gives me a chance. That's what these people are doing. If anyone expects these people to admit that, hey, we did some crimes here. Hey, I lied on a form. Hey, we're pushing a color revolution. You're kidding yourself. They're never, ever going to admit. When does a criminal ever admit that they did the crime? It doesn't even make sense. These people are going to fight to the very end, and they don't care if they kill people. They don't care if Americans die. Because again, as long as they get off, they're okay with it. And it's always been like this. They've been playing a role for a very long time. Just because they're wearing a pantsuit, just because they're wearing a suit, doesn't mean they're upstanding people. You see, there's different type of criminals, and they play a role. They're very good at lying. They're very good con artists. And they've been doing it for a very, very long time. But you can see what's happening across the world. The people are waking up. The cure is now spreading. And when you look at Germany, and this is why Germany is trying to censor so many people. Hey, if you laugh at our politicians, we're putting you in jail. If you even speak poorly about them, we're putting you in jail. Because this is how you try to maintain control while everything's falling apart around you. Because that's the only thing they have left, because they see the writing on the wall. They see the AFD party growing and growing and growing. Right now, the AFD party is 26%. The CDU has 23%. The SPD has 15%. The AFD is growing and growing. The gap is widening right now. The people are fighting back. This is what they're most afraid of. And they're very, very worried. Just like Maduro is very, very worried in Venezuela. Actually, it might not even be Maduro himself. It might be the cartels that have been controlling Venezuela for a very, very long time. Amuse put this out and said, former Venezuelan intel chief says Maduro exported gangs into the U.S. during Biden's border collapse and has run 2 decades of espionage against America. In a stunning letter obtained by the Dallas Express, Hugo Cavaral, once Maduro's top intelligence chief and a key figure in the Cartel de los Solos, tells Trump that Venezuela has weaponized cocaine, exported criminal gangs like Tren de Aragua into the U.S. and allowed FARC, ELN, Hezbollah, and Cuban intelligence to operate freely. He alleges decades of espionage inside U.S. installations, Russian tapping proposals, and Smartmatic election manipulation tools exported abroad. Carvajal says that Biden-Harris border collapse allowed Venezuela operatives to enter U.S. and asserts Trump's hardline policies were not only correct, but necessary for American national security. Absolutely. The Skiff put this out. Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower just exposed that the CIA allegedly outsourced its elections rigging software and voting machines, Smartmatic, to multiple countries, including the U.S., from Venezuela. This is what multiple sources have been telling you for years. This is nothing new to anyone paying attention. Now it's just verified by an inside source. Do you really believe everything happening in and around Venezuela is just about drug trafficking and countries' resources like oil? No, I think it has to do with drug trafficking, human trafficking, and the election system. Remember, there are layers to everything. If we do not solidify and fix our elections, there is no point in anything we do because we will lose anyway. Now you understand there is more to this man than meets the eye. My name is Hugo Carvajal Barrios. For many years, I was a high-ranking member of the Venezuela regime. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and it reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was later exported abroad, including to the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationship with the election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. So basically, we have foreign countries working with deep state players within this country manipulating our elections so they can install their people. So most of these people who don't want voter ID, paper ballots, one-day voting, now you understand why they don't want this. It has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with, hey, then we won't be able to count the votes. This is how they're allowed to stay in power. Once the cheating system is gone, they will no longer be installed in these positions. They know this. That's why They don't want voter ID, paper ballots, and one-day voting. Because if that should occur, all those people that are against it, and all you got to do is look at the people that are completely and utterly against it, that's how you know who the deep state players are. And it's not just also certain Republicans that do not want this. So right there, that tells you everything you need to know. Those are the people that are part of the deep state players. And without it, they wouldn't be there. And they know this. This is why they're fighting against it so hard. And it looks like Trump right now, because of everything that's been coming out, the Treasury Department just slapped fresh sanctions on Venezuelans Tren de Aragua and affiliates. Yes, they're putting pressure on all of these individuals. And I do believe that eventually what's going to happen is that the cartels will be removed. The criminal syndicate will be removed from Venezuela. And I do believe Trump definitely has a plan for this. Is he waging war? Is he going to bring in the troops into Venezuela? Well, we've said this many, many times before, that if you have terrorists within your country and you want to get rid of the terrorists and there's a country that's going to assist, don't the leaders need to invite you in to assist in getting rid of the terrorists? Absolutely. So let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting because we know Trump has been in contact with Maduro. But let's see how it all plays out. But we could see right now that Senator Mark Kelly is up to his old tricks once again. First, he actually was part of the Sedition Six, which he's still part of, and he was telling the military not to abide by President Trump's orders, which is a coup. And now he leaked classified information. I think you go directly to jail. Isn't that how that works? Amuse put this out and says, reports say Senator Mark Kelly leaked classified portions of the Pentagon IG's Signal Gate findings while his party publicly attacked Hegseth. If true, his actions would constitute a violation of the Espionage Act. An internal Pentagon review determined that Pete Hegseth, March 2025 sharing of Yemen strike information over Signal violated departmental rules but was not illegal due to his declassification authority. Sources now say Senator Mark Kelly disclosed classified elements of that IG report to the Wall Street Journal, while Democrat officials were publicly criticizing Hegseth. The reported leak raises questions about the treatment of sensitive oversight documents and the boundary between political messaging and classified material. And I don't believe that Mark Kelly has the ability to declassify that information, and he actually went ahead and shared it. Breaking News put this out and said, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared classified information in a leaked Signal chat that could have imperiled troops, a watchdog report. Sean Parnell says, this is a lie. The report specifically says no classified information was shared. Fake news is in overdrive. They absolutely are. Pete Hegseth responds to all this and says, no classified information, total exoneration, case closed, Houthis bombed into submission. Thank you for your attention to this IG report. Everything that they did just completely and utterly fell apart. And this should tell you everything you need to know. Senator Democrats led by Senator Tim Kaine, Adam Schiff, Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, along with Republican Senator Rand Paul, filed a war powers resolution on Wednesday directing President Trump to cease using military unless specifically authorized by declaration of war or specific authorization for use of military force in regard to potential hostilities without congressional approval against Venezuela. Well, he's not bombing Venezuela. He's bombing terrorists in international water. There's a precedent for this. And if you look at Obama, if you look at Biden, if you look at Clinton, they've all done the same exact thing. And Trump is not bombing Venezuela. These are terrorists that they have designated. They're being bombed in international water. And we could see that he's allowed to do all of this. Marian Afal put this out and said how Obama built the killing machine Trump is now driving in Venezuela. There's a lot of outrage right now about Trump strikes, but here's the part no one in the political class speaks about or out loud. Trump isn't operating outside the system. He's operating inside the one Obama built, the war on narco terrorists. that Secretary Hegseth is bragging about